You are listening to the Overthinker's Guide to Joy, episode 69. This is the one where I interview someone very special who talks about reinvention late in life and how it's never too late to follow your dreams. Let's dive in. This is a podcast for overthinkers, overdoers, and overachievers who are tired of feeling overanxious and just want to feel better. I'm your host, certified life coach, Jackie DeCrenis. You are listening to the Overthinker's Guide to Joy, episode 69. This is the one where I interview someone very special who talks about reinvention late in life and how it's never too late to follow your dreams. Let's dive in. This is a podcast for overthinkers, overdoers, and overachievers who are tired of feeling overanxious and just want to feel better. I'm your host, certified life coach, Jackie DeCrenis. Hey there. Today, I am having a very special guest. I know I say that every week, but that's actually not true. This is really a very special guest, and it's special for a lot of reasons. But the reason he's on the show today is because his professional life story is one that I share with a lot of my clients, maybe unbeknownst to him. I don't know if I've ever told him that. But this is a story about reinvention, finding a passion, and taking steps to pursue an interest or a hobby. And then that passion or hobby leading you to a whole new chapter of your life. And although this gentleman has never been my client, I have known him my entire life. And his story inspired me in many ways to have the courage to do two major shifts in my life. One was move to Hawaii, and two was to start a second career in my 50s. But today, I'm going to have him tell you his story and how he became one of the happiest people I know and embodies the expression, if you love what you do for a living, you will never work a day in your life. And with that, I would like to introduce the owner of the handcrafted soap company, Kona Natural Soap, and my brother, Greg Colden.
Aloha.
Aloha. Hi, Greg.
Hi.
So Greg and I have to be very careful because we have a very bad habit, even at our old age, of slipping into our childhood personas and talking in this very strange voice. We kind of have our own language and always have. We don't really relate to each other very often as adults, like as grown-ups or professionals. We really, when we get together, we tend to talk as if I'm still 5 years old and he's 10, which means he's 5 years older than me. But we're going to try for the purpose of this interview to bring our professional selves to this conversation. Because his story really did inspire me, although I probably never told him that to his face, but I'm telling him today for the podcast. So Greg, welcome.
Thank you so much. And I never heard that acknowledgement before. So, wow, I feel so, my ego is just so inflated now. I can't believe it.
Well, you already have a healthy ego, so we'll try and keep a parachute on that or a net. But I want to talk a little bit about, let's start with who you are, where you work, what you own, what you do, and then let's back into the story that led you to where you are in your life. So start with your company, start with all the things.
Okay, well, basically our main project is Kokalekalani Farms. Kokalekalani Farms is a biodiverse farm. Biodiversity is the integration of plant and different tree species as well as animals to create a healthy environment. And we practice it on a 5-acre parcel of land that once was a part of a 26-acre rock quarry in Hawaii, on the island of Hawaii. And it was a major endeavor to make the shift from being in the professional world to embracing the idea or the notion of possibly becoming a farmer.
Okay, so with that, tell the audience what you used to do and where you used to live and how kind of regular your life used to be and how sort of extraordinary and different it is now.
Okay, well, so born and raised in suburban Los Angeles, moved to the San Francisco Bay Area to go to college and went to college for 7-8 years on and off, never really finding my path. And following that, went to work in law firm administration and ultimately in insurance. And subsequently, I started my own insurance brokerage, which became relatively successful. And at the same time, I wanted something a little bit different, something a little bit more exciting with my life. I had a number of health challenges and realized that if I didn't create not necessarily a work-life balance, but a gratification balance, I wasn't going to live to be retired like most people. The stress would have just tore me up. So I bought a 5-acre parcel of land in Kona, Hawaii, in a little town called Holualoa, which is the Heritage Quarter, with the intention that someday we would move here and retire. My partner and I would retire. And we grubbed the land, as we call it. We had the land cleared. And I realized I didn't want to wait another, at that point, I was in my early 40s. I didn't want to wait another 20, 25 years to make that happen or have it come to fruition. Because in the back of my mind, I kept feeling as though I probably wasn't going to make it to that point. You can only have so much money, but then your inner self kind of erodes. And that was
if
what
you
I
don't
was
love what you're doing. Yeah.
correct. And though I had an incredible brokerage and some really great people working with me, at the end of the day, I wasn't satisfied. And my place of peace, there's a word in Hawaiian called luakaha. And my place of peace was my farm, Kokalekalani Farms, which means chocolate heaven. And so I started planting trees. We built a duplex on the farm, and I would come over here every 6 weeks and we'd plant trees. Half of them would die. I'd come back again, and the guy that was supposed to be tending to them would show up the week that I came so that, it looked like it had been watered, but most everything was dead. And then I'd plant some more trees and plant some more trees. And finally, I kind of hit a wall and said, I don't know if this is what I really want. And I was starting to have some more health problems. And I had gone to the doctor, and the doctor said to me, you need to give up this notion of this. It's a panacea. You need to give up this notion of a farm. It really doesn't make a lot of sense. You've got this great career, you've got this great business, but the satisfaction wasn't there anymore. So he says, you've got to make a decision one way or the other. So what did we do? We sold the big house in the Oakland Hills, and I sold my insurance business. And we moved here, and I spent 2 years planting trees, 2,000 trees. And that was my self-satisfaction. That was there's another word in Hawaiian called your kuleana, your obligation. And that was my give back to the aina, to the environment. And it reinforced my core values. And it was a really, really, really scary time because money just kept flowing out. Because if anybody wants to get rid of a lot of money, you just buy a farm and you dig holes in the ground and you throw money in it. And that's what I did. But then it sort of turned a corner, and I was fortunate enough to learn soap making on the mainland from an incredible environmentalist named Allison Kiplinger in her basement in Oakland. And my partner, Marty, came up with the idea of, why don't we create a soap business? And I'm like, you're kidding. And he goes, no. He says, I used to buy natural soap at the health food store, and I think we could do this. So I went through numerous maturations of formulas and whatnot and cataloged everything in books and researched as much as I could. And we embraced the method of making soap using vegan oils and essential oils. But then we took it one step further and we said, well, maybe we could do things like chocolate soaps since we grow chocolate. So there were some interesting processes along the way, and we started making chocolate soaps, which were embraced by many people. And then we developed the Kona Natural Soap Company.
And how many years ago is that? How old is the Kona Natural Soap Company?
The very first batch, I never sold a bar of soap. because I was in development stage for many, many years. But the very first batch, it's actually in a newspaper article above my head in the factory here. And it was October 5th, 2005. And I made my first commercial batch of soap.
Mm.
And that was the start of the company. And in those days, we were making maybe I was lucky if I made 300 bars of soap a month.
Wow.
And now we make over 3,000 bars of soap a month, and I can barely keep up.
Well, and to differentiate between what is a commercially produced soap, every bar is made by hand and every bar is sold by hand. That is either in person on your tours or in the local shop that you have in the farmer's market or on the internet when you ship them worldwide. Those are the three ways to buy your soap.
Correct.
What now does the Kona Natural Soap Company and the 5-acre former rock quarry house? In other words, what has happened to Kona Natural Soap and what is it from then, that first 300 bars, to today?
So we grow chocolate. We entered a competition. Chocolate is a brand new industry in botany in Hawaii. It was only the very first trees were planted in 1981.
Well, explain to the layman. So chocolate doesn't grow on trees. Cacao grows on trees.
Correct. I'm sorry.
So the cocoa beans or cacao grows on trees. And that's what you grow on your farm.
That's principally what we grow. We grow chocolate, we grow Kona coffee, citrus, papayas, mangoes, bananas, pineapples, avocados, coconuts, and a bunch of weird exotic fruit as well, onesies and twosies of stuff. But principally, we grow chocolate. And what's so exciting is to see somebody who has never known, and myself included, 20 plus years ago, I didn't know that chocolate grew on trees.
No, we thought it came in a Snickers bar at the grocery store.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
And the peanuts were my protein for the day, you know?
Right.
So I'll have two, which is why I look the way I do. But, it's a magical tree. It's not just Willy Wonka. It's truly a sustainable agribusiness that is so important to Hawaii. And the fact that they didn't even realize to plant the first trees until 1981 is astounding, because cacao dates back centuries. The origins of cacao are Central and South America. And what's so gratifying to me is we have seen so much progress in the 4 decades of cacao for all of the islands, for Kauai and Oahu, and now Maui's even growing it. But Hawaii Island was the first.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had our trees genotyped. We were part of a project. The trees are starting to morph. They're becoming their own unique genetic signature. And in 2019, we entered an international competition called the Cocoa of Excellence Awards. We actually won Best Chocolate in the world.
And you went to France to collect your award.
Of course. Well, that was kind of a holiday thing, It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that's amazing. Okay. So again, artisanal soap, cacao, coffee, farm tours. How long have you been hosting farm?
And chocolate. We sell our chocolate.
And you sell chocolate. And then, of course, you sell T-shirts and hats and all the things.
All the swag. You got to have a logo.
On your farm tours, how many people are coming to your farm off the cruise ships on average per week in season? That is cruise season.
Somewhere between 90 and 200 people.
So you are hosting 90 or 200 individuals, giving them farm tours, letting them taste your chocolate, your coffee, take a sample of soap home, buy your soap, buy your T-shirts, buy your hats, buy your artisanal ceramic mugs that you make in your pottery barn, which is something that you started when you were 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And I think you should tell that story too, because that kind of led to the making of the soap, which is the story I tell my clients.
So at a very early age, at 14, I went to a pottery studio, and I'd take the bus on Saturdays and I'd go, and I learned how to wedge clay and hand build things. And then I learned how to throw at the wheel. And that was my Zen. I finally figured out it was taking out aggressions, because I was not a nice teenager, as some people know. I was angry at times. And it was a method in which that I could channel my anger or frustration or my inadequacy by wedging clay.
Mm-hmm.
And so throwing was just this Zen thing that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone in and out of it my entire life, never thinking that any of it was of any value, that
Right.
had no talent. And I did some amazing pieces, some large vessels and whatnot. But most of it, I just felt what I wasn't worthy. And of course, later in life, I went to community colleges where, of course, it's abhorrent the way that the professors are there because they're accomplished potters with, masters in fine arts. And of course, their idea is not to teach, but to malign or to put down. I'm trying to think of the right word, but
Okay. To judge.
to judge and just not just critique, but actually, I can't tell you how many times this particularly one professor actually went over and I thought I had done something beautiful and took the wire tool and split it in half and went, look at this, take it back to the wedging table and re-wedge it. It's terrible.
Wow.
And it's so demeaning.
Mm-hmm.
So again, instead of saying encouraging,
Mm-hmm.
it's that demeaning nature
Mm-hmm.
that basically makes you feel that you're not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so 7 years ago, I had a very severe neck injury carrying one of my dogs and went through intensive physical therapy. And the physical therapist was incredible and encouraged me to start baking bread. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And he says, baking bread, you're kneading the dough. And I said, oh my God, because my ulnar nerve was damaged from my neck. And he says, kneading dough will rebuild that nerve trunk. All the acupuncture in the world isn't going to fix it. You got to do this. And I said, oh my gosh, that's wedging clay. And I said, okay. And so that was the start of me going back into doing my pottery again. And I joined a co-op. We have an incredible number of people who are environmentalists and farmers and artists here on the island. I found this co-op of these very accomplished artists. I applied for the co-op. I was immediately accepted. And for 6 months, I worked in the co-op and I learned more about not just making clay, but the firing process, glaze compositions, all these other things. And eventually we built my studio at the top of the farm.
What you refer to as the pottery barn.
The pottery barn.
And now you cannot keep those artisanal coffee mugs on the shelf because when they come, the 200 people come every week off these buses, these cruise ship buses, they grab them and they basically, your shelves are bare week after week. They buy all the soap, they buy all the mugs, they buy all the hats, the t-shirts, the coffee, and the chocolate.
The chocolate, my God, the chocolate. We had a wonderful man who was making our chocolate here locally. And he said, I can't keep up the production that you guys need. So we now use a large artisan chocolate maker in Oahu who does an incredible job. And we just came out with our new chocolate packaging. We hired a graphic artist and it's so gorgeous. And right now it was in a plain sleeve with a couple of stickers on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are they going to be able to keep up the production? Because people love our chocolate. So it's very rewarding. And had I stayed in the insurance business, I would have been long retired by now and sitting with my feet up, on a chaise lounge or in a hammock on the lanai. But
if you had lived that long, as you said, because
thank you.
The boredom and the stress of the mundanity of it and the soullessness, and nothing against insurance and nothing against with being a traditional business owner, but your passion wasn't there. And the fact that you now work 6.5 days a week because you choose to, because you love making soap, you love throwing pottery, you love your cacao trees, you love planting trees, you love meeting with the clients who come to the farm, you love going to the farmer's market and selling the soap, you love spending time with your partner and your dogs and your chickens and your cats. and you love your farm and you love Hawaii. So you're surrounded by love and you have created love everywhere you look because it's everything you love to do. So it's not work.
One of the things that's the most gratifying in the world is the validation I get from guests that come to the farm. They go, oh my gosh, this is something I've never experienced in my life. And the takeaway, the impression that some people get is so rewarding for me. And what's really neat is when they stay in touch and 6 months later, they send me photos of something that they completed, or they write a little story in a card and say, I'm now involved in my community doing this and doing that, whatever it is that they're doing.
So one of the things that we talk about, one of the many exercises or tools we use in coaching is future self. And what that means is when we talk to a client, whether it's on a consult or it's at the beginning of a relationship, or it can even be in an older relationship in coaching, we're always looking towards what are your goals? What's your vision for yourself? And those visions sometimes are physical, like somebody wants to lose weight. Sometimes it's about earning enough money to be able to travel. Sometimes it's about buying a house. Sometimes it's about being married. Sometimes it's about getting a dog. Sometimes it's about having a new job or their own career, their own business. But we ask the client to sit and close their eyes and imagine what their ideal life could look like. And then we give a time frame, like, is that 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years? And it really doesn't matter because it just depends on how lofty the goal is. When did you buy the rock quarry?
We bought the rock quarry in 2003.
Okay. So 20 years ago, did you have a vision of something?
Oh, gosh. It moved really fast.
But when you bought 5 acres of raw land, no home, no pets, no trees, just rock.
Yeah.
What was the next rung on the ladder, if you will, for you with that 5 acres of rock?
Plant it. That was it. Pure and simple. Plant it.
Okay.
And then eventually build something on it so that we can come and stay here intermittently.
Okay. But so that's the beginning of the vision. Here you are 20 years later. It's planted. Mm-hmm. You live on it. You make a living on it. You bring in hundreds of people a week to enjoy the farm tour, to buy the products you make with your hands. You built it. It's literally like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. You have 5 acres of Field of Dreams. So for me, that's the takeaway for what is possible. And that's a thing I talk about a lot in coaching, which is like, what's possible for you? And it starts with a dream. It starts with an idea. It's all about starting with the thought.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
And too often people stick with the thought and then they just don't, they pontificate what it's going to be like to do this, that, and the other. And I call it the Mai Tai sunsets of Hawaii. Yeah. There's the people that come here for 2 weeks and they sit on the lanai and it's like, what if we did this? And what if we did that? It doesn't work that way. You got to,
I mean, metaphorically, you got to dig holes and plant trees.
That's exactly it. And it's backbreaking work.
Yeah. But that's the difference. And that's what we're talking about. It starts with a thought and then it starts with action. And it's baby steps. It's literally planting seeds. It's interesting. There's so many metaphors in what you talked about with the failure of coming there and planting and every 6 weeks coming back and seeing that everything died because you have to till the soil. You have to water the plants. You have to watch it grow. You can't stand over it and watch it grow, but you got to keep going. And I think so many people get lost in, like you said, just the dream, or people get lost. They plant the seed, but they don't water the garden. And you have to do all the steps. And then the final step, of course, is be patient because it didn't happen overnight. It happened over 2 decades, but it incrementally did happen overnight. because you planted the trees grew, you built the house, you lived there, you built the soap factory, and then it became 5 other products, and then it became farm tours. And then didn't you win an award or some kind of identification for the most popular tourist destination for cruise ships?
Oh, yeah. TripAdvisor, we're the number one destination.
Number one destination for?
Number one shopping destination
on TripAdvisor.
On TripAdvisor.
That's amazing. So again, 5-acre rock quarry to number one destination on TripAdvisor. I mean, pretty incredible. All right. So for all of those who are listening, how do people find your website? Tell them how to be able to shop your products online.
Super easy. Remember, www.kona, KONASOP.com. KONASOAP.com. Everything's on the web. The chocolate, the coffee, the soaps, the kukui oils, the swag, everything's there.
The only way to buy the stoneware is to come to the island in person and get it?
Of course.
Okay. And if they
come to the island and meet me.
Yeah. So, and if they come to the Big Island, if they're on a cruise, they can obviously sign up through the cruise ships. But if they are not on a cruise, how can they take a farm tour and meet you and see your farm and buy all your products?
On our website, there's a drop. Again, Marty, Mr. Brilliance over there, the wizard behind the bamboo curtain. He has a section that says tours. You drop down. It takes you right into Viator, which is TripAdvisor, and you book your tour.
Well, Greg, I want to thank you for doing this interview. And I'm super happy that we didn't slip into our 5 and 10-year-old selves, that we could get through the whole interview like adults without teasing each other and bringing up like all the horror stories of when we were kids and used to fight pretty much nonstop.
I think we've all become better friends as
we've gotten older.
But it's still fun to regress a little bit now and again.
Yeah, but not for the purpose of this 45 minutes.
No, not at all.
All right. Well, thanks, Greg. I love you. And I thank you for sharing your story. And I hope it inspires others who have been thinking about opening their own business, moving to a new location, or just having a second chapter in their life, because that's what it's all about. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Overthinker's Guide to Joy. If you're enjoying these episodes, please subscribe or follow this podcast so you can always be in the know when the next episode drops. If you would like to learn more about working with me as a coach, you can connect with me through my website at JackieDeGrenis.com. That's JackieDeGrenis.com.